Hi everyone, it's Heather from heatherdebreceni.com and empowerdivorcesummit.com. Today's video is about a very serious topic that I hold very dear to my heart. And it is part 4 of season 1, episode 1 of the Empower Divorce Summit series. And part 1 was where I gave you a brief history of my experience with high conflict divorce. In part 2, I defined high conflict divorce for you and gave you some tips or some signs that you can look out for that might let you know that you're in the middle of or headed towards a high conflict divorce. And then in part 3, I shared with you some tips that I have on how you can change some of that conflict and some of the chaos that comes with a high conflict divorce and start turning it around so that you can start creating more calm and more respectful communications with your ex. But in today's, I'm going to be talking about a topic that is, like I said, very serious and very dear to my heart, and it is some tips for what to do if your children are being used as the messenger for your ex's verbal abuse. And this is an extremely painful thing to go through. It is something that I coach clients through often, and it is something that is truly damaging to your children. And it's hard because here you have your child who may be a loving, sweet, caring child one day, and then the next day they are screaming at you and calling you names and being really abusive verbally towards you. And so I want to share with you some tips for how you can turn that around. And I go into a lot of detail on that in this particular part of the Summit series, and I hope that you find it helpful. And I want to stress again that if you are experiencing this, I say it in the interview, but if you are experiencing this, know that these tips are not something that will work immediately overnight. There are things that you will need to practice. They are things that you will need to take a lot of deep breaths to work through. And it is always helpful and beneficial if you have a team helping to support you as you go through putting some of these boundaries in place and communicating with your child, one of which would be something that I recommend every single one of my clients have, which is a therapist, especially for the children, but also for you, because it can be really mentally taxing to go through an experience like this, and emotionally it takes a toll. And the other thing would be a divorce coach, whether it be me or any other divorce coach, as long as there's someone who has some experience in dealing with situations like this. So again, it's always best if you have a team around you to support you and to help you hold you up as you go through something like this. So I will say this, if at any point throughout this video you find the information helpful or you like it or you think that it just really resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up so that I know you like the content so I can try to create more of the same or similar content in the future. And if you are new to this channel, please click the subscribe button so that we can get you notified every time I upload a new part to the Summit series. And lastly, if you would like to see the full text transcript of this interview, you can find that at my website, heatherdebreceni.com. And the link will be provided in the comments below. So I will leave you with that and send you over to watch or to listen to part 4 of season 1, episode 1 of the Empower Divorce Summit series.
The next thing that I want to talk about is because, when that works and you sort of eliminate these options for direct abuse, what can happen with some of these special individuals in these high conflict divorces is that they will then use the children to become their voice for their anger and rage at you. Again, this doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, here are some tips for how you can communicate with your child when they are acting as the abusive voice for your ex. So You've now eliminated their ability to directly abuse you and sort of get a rise out of you. And, things have moved on to, hey, we're just going to make sure that little Susie or Jimmy or, your child basically becomes this angry, rage-filled voice directed towards you. So the first thing that I want to say is that this takes practice, because it is really hard, especially in our society. We're kind of trained that kids need to be respectful and they only need to talk to you in a certain way. And the reality is that in these sorts of situations, although it is your child's voice that is speaking, you have to understand that they're just the messenger. And if you had a loving, nurturing relationship with your child and you are truly putting their best interests first, and they are raging at you and they are repeating statements that are verbatim what your former spouse has either said to you in person or said to you when you were married, it can be really hard and emotionally draining. So the first thing that I always tell people is to remember to take a deep breath when your kids are doing that, because it can be so painful that it literally takes your breath away. And the anxiety level and sometimes the anger that comes out from you, because, here you are, this is your kid and they're talking to you like this. So just take that deep breath and remember, even if you have to repeat it to yourself like a mantra, that your child is just the messenger. So you've taken that calming breath. You've repeated to yourself that my child is just the messenger, and then you're going to set a clear and calm boundary about appropriate behavior with your child. So while they're saying all these things to you in a calm, again, this takes practice, in a calm voice, say, I love you, but you're being very disrespectful right now. I want to hear what you have to say, but I can't tolerate you speaking to me this way. I will have to. And then you could say, end the call if you're on the phone, stop responding to your text if you're texting with your child, or leave the room if this is happening, face to face. So again, in a calm and clear voice, you may have to practice this in the mirror if this is something that's going on. Practice it when you have some time to really learn and feel what you're saying. And that saying that said, when parents say things in a calm voice, in a quiet voice, that it has more impact. And that's true, because when you're yelling and you're out of control as a response to someone who is acting out of control, all you're doing is escalating the situation. So in a clear and calm voice, I love you, but you're being very disrespectful right now. I want to hear what you have to say, but I can't tolerate you speaking to me this way. I will have to end the call or leave the room, depending on what's appropriate. So you say that in a calm voice, and usually the first time you try this probably is not going to work, because we are creatures of habit, and if this type of conversation and this type of verbal messenger abuse is happening in your home, you can't expect that it's going to change overnight, because you have to build trust with your child that what you're saying is what's really going to happen. So if that verbal abuse continues and it just keeps going on after you've already set your clear, calm boundary, then what you could say is you could end the conversation with love. And now I'm going to describe what that's like, because that sounds really hard, and it is, because we've been programmed that it's really disrespectful to hang up on someone, to walk away, and to do those things. So, but there is a way to do it with love that is letting your child know that you have set a firm boundary, that you are sticking to it, but that you still love them. So what you could say at that point is, if they've continued on after you've already given that, clear, calm boundary and warning, then you could say, I love you, but I won't continue to allow you to speak to me this way. When you're ready to speak to me in a more respectful manner, I would love to hear what you have to say. But for now, I'm going to end the conversation. So again, practice, practice, practice. I love you, but I won't continue to allow you to speak to me this way. When you're ready to speak to me in a more respectful manner, I would love to hear what you have to say. But for now, I'm going to end the conversation. Now, while you're doing this, your child may still be continuing with their verbal abuse, with the texts, with whatever is happening at that moment. And again, we're talking about verbal abuse. We're not talking about physical abuse. And then you end the conversation. So what that would look like is if you're on the phone, you would hang up. You're not hanging up on them. You have told them why you are ending the conversation. So it's not the same as, screaming, "I can't stand the way you're talking to me right now." Click. This is, you're doing it with love. And you've set a clear boundary, and you're just following through with what you've said you're going to do. If it's with text, great. The easy form of that is just to stop responding to the text. And sometimes those texts are pretty hurtful, so just don't even look at them at that time. Just turn your phone on, vibrate, leave it in the other room, and just sort of remove yourself from that communication with the text, and eventually they will. Or, if it's in person, you can leave the room. Now, not with small babies, of course, but usually you're not going to face this with an infant, okay? This is something that happens with, a lot of times with preteens and, children who are starting to feel like they have to pick sides. So, I've given you those sort of tips. Those are my tried and truths, and I can say that I have never met a match for those. Again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that takes time. All of these things, every interview that you're going to hear, all the tips, they all take time. But if you are consistent in applying these techniques and consistent in applying these tips, then you will be successful in what you're doing.
Thank you so much for watching Part 4 of Season 1, Episode 1 of the Empower Divorce Summit series. I know that this was a really difficult topic, and I want to thank you for trying to create some positive change in your relationship with your children and in the way that you communicate with them and set boundaries with them. And I hope that you found this video useful and that the tips inside gave you some new perspective on how to change that. And change things in your relationship. So if you found it useful, please click on the like button so that I know that you found this information and topic useful. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe before you leave so that you can be notified when I upload new videos and new content. And you can always find more information and support on my website, heatherdebreceni.com, where I have contributor blog posts and my own with more tips and information. Lastly, I'd like to say this, that if you found the information useful and you would like a complimentary coaching session with me, you can follow the link down in the comments below. That will take you to my scheduling software so that you can sign up for a complimentary session. I conduct these sessions via Skype so that I can see you and you can see me, and you'll have an opportunity to tell me a little bit more about your divorce journey, and I can give you some tips and information and see whether or not I think that we would be a good fit working together, that it would be beneficial for you and me both. So thank you, and thank you for having the courage to take the steps needed to turn the chaos of your divorce into a calm life for yourself and for your children. Have a wonderful day.